Okay, so the big thing here is that we're looking at the same bases again, but this time I have this third color on this one here. It's really no different. It's the same process. The biggest problem with doing this and setting this up is that in Max you have to do a little bit more of a dance. When we get into Unity, you're going to see it's super easy. We have to control our textures a little bit more. We have to change a couple of things, but in Unity it's built into a material and you'll be able to play with it. But unfortunately in Max, you have to do a little bit more of a dance. Let's talk about first how we did this. So I kind of separated this out. So really the only thing that's controlling the channels in our maps is this alpha channel we're using. It's for opacity, and we're using it again for opacity here. So it's our opacity, and you can see it says channel 2, because if you remember, both of these are using channel 2, they're just using different materials in channel 2. For it to work on this one, I had to make this red material a channel 3 material. So without destroying what I originally did, all I did is I made a separate channel 3 bitmap. And I'm calling it channel 3, by the way. This is just the name. Just me naming it channel 3 so I can keep it organized. It has nothing to do with what it is or anything. It's still the same texture bitmap. It's still just a pattern painting, and it's just this right here. It's just that simple texture we made. But I'm naming it this way so I can keep control of it. And that's one of the reasons naming conventions make a big difference, and you really got to keep on top of them. I won't name them channel 2 and 3 inside of Mac or inside of Unity, but for the purposes of this, it's much cleaner if I do it this way, especially for teaching. So I use this as channel 3, and if we come over and look at it, it's in map channel 3. And if you remember, this is map channel 2, which is what I named it, but it's also using map channel 2. Whereas like every other texture is map channel 1 by default, because that's what it defaulted to. So really, it's just kind of a, let me see if this is, we can get rid of this one. I think it's just a base material. It's two different materials, and then I had to spin it through a third material. So I'm using the same things over and over again. I'm just changing the way that they're being shown. Okay, so to get to this third material, first I had to unwrap a third version of this, and I did it really fast, and it's kind of sloppy, but I'll show you what I did. If I come in here, first off you have to remember this about Max right now, is that every time you add a new information to a map channel, you want to collapse the one you've worked on and then open it again and add to a new one. So that means that when I'm working on channel 1, I want to collapse it and then add a new UV unwrap on it and say channel 2. And then I can decide if I want to keep channel 1 or move channel 1 to channel 2 or just start from scratch in channel 2. Generally, once I unwrap something, it's organized in a way so that I keep that stuff and just move it to the second channel in this case. But sometimes I don't want to, but you have that option. That's what that abandon is. And then after I do the UV unwraps for 2, I want to collapse it and put another UV unwrap on it again and change it to channel 3. Now the trick is, for me, since I'm unwrapping it in this stripe formation where some things are hidden and not hidden, and we can go over that again real quick, but I want to keep my channel 2 UVs and move them to channel 3 and just modify what I did in channel 2 for channel 3. So in this case, I'd go here, for example, practically, this is the practical way to do it. So I'd say this is channel 1 is the gray, is the stone texture. And then I'd say channel 2, and I'd say abandon, which means abandon the unwrap I had for channel 1. Okay, so I abandon, and I say okay. And then I come up to channel 3 by clicking on this again. Now I haven't modified anything, so you won't lose it. And then this time I'm going to say move, because it's going to bring my channel 2 information to channel 3, which is what it just did, and that's why it's exactly the same. It looks like it's been unwrapped just for channel 2. So if I do this and say abandon this time, wait, cancel. let me actually, and that's the weird thing about UV unwraps and channels in Max. It's kind of finicky, so you always want to make sure you have it clean when you're going to a new channel. It's a clean version of unwrap, otherwise it gets muddled what it keeps. So I'm going to abandon channel 1, I'm going to go to channel 2, and I'm going to say go to channel 3, but this time instead of move it, so I have this all set up, I'm going to say abandon because I've already been in channel 3 and made some changes. So I'm going to say abandon, and now when I look in channel 3, it's just these two. So the weird thing about channel 3, oh, that one's working, oh, cool, is that before I couldn't get it to show up, it was overlaid and stuff. Okay, so it's the exact same texture set as this one, but it's unwrapped in channel 3 instead of this one is 2. I know that's confusing, and I originally had a third one, but I wanted to make you understand that the channels that these textures are on it doesn't matter what the texture is, it matters the channel and the unwrap and all that stuff for it. So what I've started to do is when I have something, and you have to remember that everything we see unwrapping in here is just an alpha. We're just unwrapping if it's on or off, black or white. Okay, it's not the color doesn't matter. All that matters is that it's on or off. So like when I scale these things super far down, like this, it's not stretching the UVs, it's not changing the texel density or any of the information about the texture, it's just saying off or on. So if I come zoom in here, you can see that this UV is still fine. The one thing that gets tricky is that sometimes this stuff goes weird and you want to try and keep them consistent, but that's actually from the UVs on the original object more than anything else. In fact, if you look here, this stretching, you'll see that they're stretching this UV right here. It has nothing to do with this. This is clean as can be. It's just this one, which means that my stone texture is unwrapped incorrectly from when I did it fast before. Okay, so I've got all these things set into one area, and what I did is basically I should probably just put them all in one like complete area, but I just did it this way. And basically all I did is I took something from here, and then I went down to here and said 1 to move it over 1, and then went to the next one and said -1 to move it down 1. Doesn't always work. You may have things down here, but in general, when I'm doing a masking setup, this is just, I'm keeping this area for all my stuff so it's not overlapping if I have things going on up here. Anyway, so now I've got my channel 3, and you can see that the only thing that changes, should change, oh, because it was the red stuff. That's the main place. The only thing that changes is this. Now, here's the problem the way I did it first, is I didn't change the original unwrap. So I'm going to fix that right now. But if they're overlapping like this, it really didn't matter. But what it enabled me to do is unwrap 2 the way I wanted to, and then just change the colors on a couple of them, which is a really quick and easy technique that if you wanted to have 2 of these same pots, but one of them had different colors in this area, you didn't have to, completely change the pot to be used somewhere else. So anyway, so for example, I guess I can't really do that. Anyway, so yeah, if I wanted this one, let's say, everything I do has I try to have a secondary function to make my life a little bit easier. So if I took this one and went to the material editor and said put on, I think it's this one, it'd all be red because channel 2 is unwrapped specifically for this. This one I just overlapped my channel 2 with a channel 3 unwrap for the speed's sake. But the problem with that is that when I want to change stuff in here, my unwrap channel 2 is going to bleed through and give me problems. The can. So if I come up here, I want it to be like this, then I still have that unwrap of channel 2 bleeding through. So just keep that in mind. You can just get rid of that stuff. You can go back and how would I fix it? So like if I decided, let me come here. If I decided I wanted to keep this way, and I moved it up here, just moved it straight up so I have this checker box. Then I would collapse this, convert to editable poly. Then I'd add another UV unwrap, and I go through and type in 2. You can also type it in, but if you wanted to keep 2 for 3, you don't want to type it in. You want to go through 2 to get to 3. Anyway. And then I'd say abandon, because I don't want 1 coming in here. And if I open this one up, now I'm working with the purples only. So if I select this and grab this one and do that, let's say 1, -1, put it in the right, transparency spot. Go ahead and make my pattern, and do it so I can see it everywhere. And then I just pull this down. So like that, which is weird. Oh, it's because it's not paying attention to channel 3, I think. I'll go back and do poly. Let me see what's going on with channel 3 now. See, this is what I mean about the funkiness of this all. And let me say abandon, keep whatever's in channel 3 there, open the editor, show me channel. Oh, and this one now has the wrong texture on it too. How's that? That's stupid. Anyway, my thought is that it's in here somewhere. It's one of these paths. This is a little bit messed up, and I'll figure it out on the background and stuff. But what I'll do for now is we'll just leave it the default. Basically, in Max, you have to do all these pathways, but in Unity by default, it has a material that does this for you. So all you're doing is working on material.